Hi, how are you today? Are you ready for a new topic? Our today's topic is sound. What is in your mind? Are you thinking about a music? What type of music that you love to listen? What is the song title that you listened this morning? Before we continue, let's recap the previous topic we have discussed. In last discussion we have learned about image. What is the requirements are needed for you to prepare before you start creating an image? The preparation is include idea and computer hardware and software. Then, you been teach on bitmap image and vector image. You must be able to differentiate between bitmap image and vector image. Next, is about 3D drawing. In the discussion, you've been introduced to example of 3D tools and 3D features that must be included in the 3D softwares. Then, the discussion is continued to the panorama image. After that, we have learned about the color. The topic has touched on the source of the color methods, color in computer screen, and color models. There are several color models have been introduced during the discussion, which are RGB, CYMK, HSV, HSB, HSL, CIE, YUV, YIQ and YCC. On the other hand, you also have learned about the color palettes and dithering. Then, we have learned about the image file format such as JPEG, PNG, PICT, DIT, BMP, PCX, DFX, PSD, AI, CDR and TIFF. Finally, you've been tell about the image compression, which are lossy and lossless. Hope you still remember all the information I said just now. If you not remember, please watch my previous lecture video and read the slide regarding the previous topic. Okay. Now, we take a look into our today topic overview. Today topic we will start with introduction to sound. Multimedia system sound. Digital and MIDI audio. Audio format file. MIDI versus digital audio. Adding sound to multimedia project. Then, we will talk on professional audio and lastly, production tips. Today learning objectives are you know how to apply sound in multimedia project. Use MIDI and understand its attributes. You must be able to calculate the audio sampling size. You must understand the audio recording and editing process. Moreover, you must be able to determine the suitable audio file format to be applied in multimedia project. Finally, you must be able to manage and integrate the audio into the multimedia project. All these objectives must be achieved at the end of this lecture. Sound can provide the listening pleasure of music. Some feel-good music powerfully fills the heart or generating emotions. How you use the sound can make the difference between ordinary multimedia presentation and a professionally spectacular one. Misuse of sound can wreck your multimedia project. So, do you know how the sound exists? The sound exists when something vibrates in the air and it creates waves of pressure. These waves spread like ripples from a pebble tossed into a still pool. And when they reach your eardrums, you experience the changes of pressure, or vibrations, as sound. In air, the ripples propagate at about 750 miles per hour, or Mach 1 at sea level. Sound waves vary in sound pressure level, amplitude, and in frequency or pitch. Many sound waves mixed together form an audio sea of symphonic music, speech, or just a plain noise. Acoustic is a branch of physics that studies sound. Sound pressure levels, loudness or volume, are measured in decibels. Decibel measurement is actually the ratio between a chosen reference point on a logarithmic scale and the level that is actually experienced. When you quadruple the sound output power, there is only a 6 dB increase. And when you make the sound 100 times more intense, the increase in decibel is not 100-fold, but only 20 dB. A logarithmic scale makes sense, because humans perceive sound pressure level over an extraordinarily broad dynamic range. A logarithmic scale is also used for measuring the power of earthquakes, the Richter scale, and stellar magnitudes. Sound is energy, just like the waves breaking on a sandy beach, and too much volume can permanently damage the delicate receiving mechanisms behind your eardrums, typically dulling your hearing in the 6 kHz range. After brief introduction on sound, now a discussion on multimedia system sounds. You can use sound right off the bat on your computer, because beeps and warning sounds are available as soon as you install the operating system. Can you access to the sound file installed in your computer? The answer is yes. You can open to the sound preference pane in your computer and listen to your system sounds. In Macintosh computer, you can change your system alert sound by put your custom sound file in the AFF file format. The AFF is stand for Audio Interchange File Format. While in Windows computer the sound file format is WAV, which is stand for Waveform Audio File Format. In order to insert sound in your multimedia project, you can use digitally recorded audio or MIDI file. MIDI is stand for Musical Instrumental Digital Interface. Next slide is digital audio. When you create multimedia, it is likely that you will deal with file formats and translators for text, sounds, images, animations, or digital video clips. A sound files format is simply a recognized methodology for organizing and compressing the digitized sounds data bits and bytes into a data file. The structure of the file must be known, of course, before the data can be saved or later loaded into a computer or device to be edited and/or played as sound. The file name extension identifies which method of storage is used. Digital audio is created when you represent the characteristics of a sound wave using numbers, which is a process referred to as digitizing. You can digitize sound from a microphone, synthesizer, existing recordings, live radio and television broadcasts, and popular CDs. In fact, you can digitize sounds from any natural or pre-recorded source. Digitized sound is sample sound. Every 1/8 fraction of a second, a sample of sound is taken and stored as digital information in bits and bytes. The quality of this digital recording depends upon how often the samples are taken and how many numbers are used to represent the value of each sample. The more often you take a sample, and the more data you store about the sample, the finer the resolution and quality of the captured sound when it is played back. Since the quality of your audio is based on the quality of your recording and not the device on which your end user will play the audio, digital audio is said to be device independent. The 3 sampling rates most often used in multimedia are 44.1 kHz, 22.05 kHz, and 11.025 kHz. Sample sizes are either 8 bits or 16 bits. What is audio sampling rate? It is important. In this lecture, I'll give you a YouTube link for you to watch the video regarding the sample rate. From the several video, you will get what is audio sample rate. Why it's important to music industry? From the video I want you to extract the important information and make your own notes. So, you will have an idea to answer the test question regarding this topic. The larger the sample size, the more accurately the data will describe the recorded sound. An 8-bit sample size provides 256 equal measurement units to describe the level and frequency of the sound in that slice of time. A 16-bit sample size provides a staggering 65,536 equal units to describe the sound in that same slice of time. The value of each sample is rounded off to the nearest integer quantization, and if the amplitude is greater than the intervals available, clipping of the top and bottom of the wave occurs. Quantization can produce an unwanted background hissing noise, and clipping may severely distort the sound. Furthermore, as shown in the slide, the crucial aspects of preparing the digital audio files are balancing the need for sound quality against available size of computer RAM and hard disk. Higher quality of audio sound means larger size of the files, requiring longer time to download and need larger hard disk size to store the files. Next is setting. Setting proper recording levels to get a good audio sound quality and clean recording. Remember that the sampling rate determines the frequency at which samples will be taken for the recording. Sampling at higher rates more accurately captures the high-frequency content of your sound. Audio resolution determines the accuracy with which a sound can be digitized. Using more bits for the sample size yields a recording that sounds more like its original. Moreover, stereo recordings are more lifelike and realistic, because human beings have two ears. Mono recordings are fine, but tend to sound a bit flat and uninteresting when compared with stereo recordings. Logically, to record stereo you need two microphones for left and right. And the sound file generated will require twice as much storage space as the mono file for the same length of playtime. Furthermore, the consumer-grade audio CD provides stereo recording at a sampling rate of 44.1 kHz and 16-bit resolution. Means, if you be given an opportunity to listen to the audio with sampling rate of 48 kHz and 24-bit resolution, you will have a different listening experience. Where the quality of the audio according to the Wikipedia, it has been considered as a high-resolution audio, also known as high-definition audio. To experience the difference you can go to the link as shown on your screen. Slide shows the formula to calculate the size of digital audio recording in bytes. The formula shows for mono recording and stereo recording. 1 kHz is equivalent to 1000 Hz. Therefore, you need to convert the sampling rate from kilohertz to hertz by multiply with 1000, before you can input it in the formula. The size is determined in byte. Okay, this subtopic is important. I'll repeat. It's important. Hope you can listen to my words and make your own additional note. In this slide we will talk on editing the digital audio file. Most of audio software must have a common features such as trim, splicing and assembly, volume adjustment, format conversion, resampling or downsampling, fade-ins and fade-outs, equalization, time stretching, digital signal processing, reversing sound, and multiple tracks. Trimming is removing dead air or blank space and any unnecessary extra time from the end is your first sound editing task. Trimming even a few seconds here and there of your audio recording might make a big difference to your file size. Next is splicing and assembly. Using the same tools mentioned for trimming, you will probably want to remove the extraneous noises that inevitably creep into a recording. Even the most controlled studio voiceovers require touch-up. Also, You may need to assemble longer recordings by cutting and pasting together many shorter ones. In the old days, this was done by splicing and assembling actual pieces of magnetic tape. Next feature is volume adjustment. If you try to assemble more than one audio tracks into a single audio track, there is little chance that all the segments will have the same volume. To provide a consistent volume level, select all the data in the file, and raise or lower the overall volume by a certain amount. Don't increase the volume too much, or you may distort the file. It is best to use a sound editor to normalize the assembled audio file to a particular level, say 80% to 90% maximum without clipping, or about -16 decibel. Without normalizing to this rule of thumb level, your final soundtrack might play too softly or too loudly. Then, next feature is format conversion. In some cases, the digital audio editing software might read or execute the audio file in different format from your presentation, or authoring program read the audio file. Therefore, most of the digital audio editing software will allow the audio producer to save or export the files in any audio formats, most of which can be read and imported by multimedia authoring systems. However, some of the data might be lost during conversion process. Another feature is resampling or downsampling. The purpose of the feature is to resample or downsample your audio file. This situation occurs when you recorded and edited your audio file at 16-bit sampling rates, but you are using lower rates and resolutions in your project. Thus, you need to resample or downsample your audio file. The tool that you are using will analyze the existing audio file and work through it to reduce the number of sample. But, the process might require the hard disk space in your computer. Next feature is fade-ins and fade-outs. The feature used to smooth out the very beginning and the very end of the audio file. Then, the equalization is another feature that normally included in digital audio editing tool. The feature offers digital equalization capabilities that allow sound producer to modify a recording frequency content, so that it sounds brighter, more high frequencies, or darker, lower ominous rumbles. Time stretching is another feature that include in the digital audio editing tool. This feature is an advanced program that allows you to alter the length of a sound file without changing its pitch. This feature can be very useful, but most time stretching algorithms will severely degrade the audio quality of the file if the length is altered more than a few percent in both directions. Next, digital signal processing, DSP. Some digital audio software allow you to process the signal with reverberation, multi-tap delay, chorus, flange, and other special effect using DSP routine. Being able to process a sound source with effect can greatly add to your project. To create an environment by placing the sound inside a room, a hall, or even a cathedral can bring depth and dimension to a project. But a little usage can be accepted. Please do not overdo. Reversing sounds is another feature included in the audio editing software. Another simple manipulation is to reverse all or a portion of a digital audio recording. Sounds, particularly spoken dialogue, can produce a surreal, otherworldly effect when played backward. The final feature normally included in the digital audio software is multiple tracks. The use of the feature is to allow the sound producer to edit and combine multiple tracks such as sound effects, voiceovers, music, or etc. Then, merge those tracks and export them as a final mix to a single audio file. The calculation example in the slide is to show the usage of the formula. When you be given a 10 seconds of stereo audio file and you need to calculate the sample rate size of the file. The calculation process is shown in the slide. So, if you get the question to calculate the size of the sample rate of the audio file either stereo or mono, I hope you remember the formula and be able to use it and get the answer for the question. Now we continue with MIDI audio. MIDI is stand for Musical Instrument Digital Interface, is a communication standard developed in early 1980s for electronic musical instruments and computer. It allows music and sound synthesizers from different manufacturers to communicate with each other by sending message along cables connected to the devices. MIDI provides a protocol for passing detailed descriptions of a musical score, such as notes, the sequences of notes and the instrument that will play these notes. But MIDI data is not digitized sound. It is a shorthand representation of music stored in numeric form. Digital audio is a recording, while MIDI is a score. MIDI is device dependent. Means, rather than recording the sound of note, MIDI software be able to create a data about each note as it is played on a MIDI keyboard or another MIDI device. For example, you play one key on the MIDI keyboard. So, the MIDI software be able to recognize the key or chord that you played, the pressure that you used to press the key, the duration you press the key and the duration the key to decay or fade away. The MIDI software can reproduce the key with those details and represent all information about the key exactly. It is not like you record the sound of the key, use the sound recorder, where the details about the key that you played is hard to be recognized, especially for those who are deaf tone. Furthermore, since MIDI is device dependent and the quality of consumer MIDI playback hardware varies greatly, MIDI's true place in multimedia work may be as a production tool rather than a delivery medium. In addition, size for one complete MIDI file is small compared to recording audio file. Hence, it is easy and fast to embed the MIDI file on the website or even to download it from the web. The length of the MIDI file can be changed without affecting the pitch or degrading the sound quality. However, if you plan to work with MIDI, please bear in mind that working with MIDI requires the knowledge on the music theory. More advantages and disadvantages of MIDI, we will discuss later. Alright students, I think everybody need a break. So, we stop here. Please come back after 5 minutes. While we are taking a break, today's topic is about audio. So, let's re-listen to this audio.
You can take my heart for a walk on the beach. You can take my heart for a little trip. You can take my heart very close to your heart. You can take my heart forever if you like. But not every heart belongs to any other. You and I are meant to be. I'm the one for you, you're the one for me. You love me as much as I do. When you look at me, we're skin to skin, I want you so. Please come in, and you love me more and more. And my love goes out with you, and you kiss me more and more. And I kiss you too, and I kiss you too. If I take your heart, I will cherish every day. If I take your heart, I will heal the old wounds.
Okay. Are you fresh enough to continue? Before we continue, I would like to ask you the question. How do you feel when you listen to the audio? Are you familiar with the song? What is the title? Keep your answer until the end of the class. Then tell me your answer. Now, let's continue our class. In this slide we will discuss on the audio file format. I'm pretty sure that you know the MP3 file format. But, what does the MP3 stand for? A sound files format is simply a recognized methodology for organizing and compressing the digitized sounds data bits and bytes into a single data file. The extension at the end of the file name after the period is the methodology used to store the file. There are many techniques to store bits and bytes. The common method used for consumer-grade music CDs is a linear pulse code modulation (LPCM), often shortened to PCM. In Macintosh, the format of the audio data file is AFF or AFC, while in Windows Computer is WV. On the other hand, the CD-ROM EXA extended architecture format for reading and writing CDs was developed later. So, you'll be able to store the recording audio file onto a single CD-R disk. Then, when you copy an audio file from a CD to your personal computer, the LPCM tracks from an audio CD are usually converted and stored on a computer in uncompressed format, either AFF for Mac computer or WAV for a Windows computer. Moreover, the method used for digitally encoding the high-quality stereo of consumer CD music market is an international standard called ISO 10149. This standard, also known as a Red Book audio standard. The standard has stated for the audio sampling size and sampling rate for the audio consumer CD is at 16 bits and 44.1 kHz. This is allow an accurate reproduction of all the sounds that humans can hear. Until today's, dedicated professional sound studio equipment was used for this high-fidelity recording. Today most off-the-shelf computers will record and play 16-bit sampled sound at 44.1 kHz or at 48 kHz. Next, we will look the advantages and disadvantages of MIDI and audio recording file. Based on this slide, I believe you smart enough to recognize the advantages or disadvantages for both files. MIDI file is much compact or small than audio file. So, MIDI file do not use much memory, hard disk space and internet bandwidth compared to audio file. Next, if you put a MIDI file on the website loading page, MIDI file will load and play faster than audio file. Furthermore, if you record a MIDI sound using a high-quality device, then the sound from the MIDI file is much better than audio file. Next, if you changed the length of the MIDI file, it would not affected or degraded the sound quality and the pitch, unlike the audio file.
Finally, MIDI file can be converted into a score sheet document and be able to recognize all the note played and all details regarding the note exactly by using sequencer software. But the audio file can't do that. However, the disadvantages of the MIDI file is MIDI data do not represent sound, but MIDI data represent the musical instruments. Next, MIDI file cannot easily be used to play back spoken dialogue, compared to audio file. Next, compared to MIDI file, the audio file had a consistent quality to play back. Finally, composing a MIDI sound is required a music theory knowledge, unlike composing the audio file is required a music instrument skills or knowledge. Now is the time to adding the sound to multimedia project. Whether you're working on Macintosh or Windows computer, You need to follow certain steps to bring an audio recording into your multimedia project. Here I will briefly explain to you the steps. First, you must determine the file formats that are compatible with your multimedia or touring software, and the delivering medium you will be using. Especially you need to consider on the size of the storage medium and the bandwidth capacity. Second, you must determine the sound playback capabilities, include the codec and plugins that the end-user system offers. What is codec? Codec is a combination of compressor and decompressor. It is a software that allows you to compress a stream of audio or video data for storage or transmission, while decompresses it for playback the data. There are many codecs on the internet right now. Some of the codecs are lossy, which means the software will trade the quality of the audio or video file to reduce the file size and to increase the transmission speed. While some other are lossless, which means the original data is never altered. So, please remember what is codecs and how it works your audio or video data. Now, the third step is you need to decide what kind of sound is needed for your multimedia project, such as background music, special sound effects and spoken dialogue. You also need to decide where these sound events will occur in the flow of your project, which means you must recognize the scenes of your project, the location where the sound should appear or the time when the sound should appear. So, you need to fit the sound cues into your storyboard. I hope you still remember what is a storyboard and why we need the storyboard. Fourth, you need to decide where and when you want to use either digital audio or MIDI data. Fifth, you need to make sure the source of the sound, either you need to create it from the scratch or purchase it. But, if you purchase the sound, either audio or MIDI sound, make sure you're well known about the copyright issues. Sixth, of course you need to edit the sound to fit your project. Seventh, you need to test the sound to be sure they are timed properly with the project's images. Okay, some of information in this slide I already explained earlier. So, I will briefly touch on each point in this slide. The Red Book is digital audio standard for digitally encoding high-quality stereo for the consumer CDs. The standard is 16-bit for the digital audio sample size and 44.1 kHz or 48 kHz for sampling rate. To producing the high-quality audio is acquired amount of digital sound information. Thus, it will require the hard disk space. So, the bigger sampling rate of audio file will require the bigger size of storage. Compress and decompress the audio file may reduce the quality of audio sound. Space or storage size can be conserved by downsampling or reduce the number of sample slices taken per second. Sampling rate can be calculated based on the formula given in this slide earlier. But, you must convert the kilohertz to hertz by multiply with 1000. Then, you must verify and ensure that the calculation either for mono or stereo sampling rate. If stereo, you need to multiply with 2 number of tracks, while mono just 1 number of track. Now, we're in the final subtopic for today's discussion. To produce the audio or MIDI sound, there are several tips will be shared in this slide. If you think to record an audio sound, it is better to record the audio sound in other device such as a tape recorder. Instead, directly record into your computer in order to avoid from overloading of your computer. It is because of the size of the raw audio sound is big, and it is require a big space of your computer storage. Next, the instrument or equipment and standard used for the project must be accordance with the requirement. It is important to maintain the high-quality database that store the original sound material. Next point is tips to apply audio sound in multimedia project. In general, you need to test your sound and image synchronization regularly. The speed of your multimedia presentation, include the videos or animations and sound, is depending on the user's CPU. Moreover, sound's RAM requirements and user's playback setup must be evaluated and verified. Finally, the copyright material strictly avoided from being used unless you got their permission from the owner. As a summary for today's topic is vibrations in air create waves of pressure that are perceived as sound. Multimedia system sound is digitally recorded audio or MIDI files. Digital audio data is representation of sound and stored in the form of sample rate, while MIDI data is representation of instrument and stored in the form of numeric data. The remaining point in summary we have been discussed in advantages and disadvantages of audio and MIDI file. I hope you can do some extra reading to this topic. It is good if you have the textbook, so you have a detailed picture about this topic. So, I think that is enough for today's class. Do you have any questions, class? I hope you're ready for a test. I wish you be able to answer all questions. Thank you for your concentration.